Okay, we can, I guess, film each other. Okay. Well, thank you. I'm just trying to figure out what happened. They were only 3 and 4 years old.
You got it right, but you got it wrong. But you got it.
I mean, okay.
You'll be sorry.
Although the boys' bodies have not been found, the prosecution has said that evidence, including interviews with the West's other children, indicates the boys were killed in September of 2020, 3 months before the West reported them missing. The West are charged with second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, and other offenses and face life terms in prison if convicted.
The trial of Jacqueline and Trezell West resumes this morning. Wanda West, Trezell's mother, is testifying via Zoom. Wanda West said she is in Washington, D.C., visiting one of her sons. She has 3 sons. Trezell is the middle child. Wanda West said Trezell and Jacqueline have been married since 2010, have 2 biological children. She said she lived on Potomac Avenue back in 2020 when the boys were reported missing. She said she had lived there since about 1999. Wanda West testified her son and daughter-in-law became involved in foster care around 2015. She identified a photo taken in 2019 of the 4 adopted children the West had. At the Potomac Avenue house, she lived with her husband and youngest son. Before 2020, she went to Casa Loma Apartments, where the West lived before moving to Cal City, about 2 or 3 times a month, sometimes to babysit, sometimes to visit. In March of 2020, Wanda West said COVID hit, and she didn't get to see them as much. She said she stopped going. Wanda West is describing the personality of each of the West children. She's describing the biological and adopted children. She said Orrin was very quiet and maybe had a learning disability. Orson would cry if he didn't know you, but would calm down with toys. Wanda West said she became aware the West purchased a house in California City. She said she agreed to help them move. She agreed to watch the 4 older boys while they moved. She rented a U-Haul truck for the West and rented a car for herself to drive to Cal City. She doesn't own a car. On September 18th, she got the rental car, got the U-Haul, and went to Cal City. Prosecutor Eric Smith is asking about the rental agreement for the U-Haul. Wanda West testified she arrived at Cal City between 11 a.m. and noon on September 18, 2020. She said Trezell and Jacqueline greeted her. She walked in the door and she said she saw 4 boys in the house, not Orrin or Orson. Wanda West said she didn't ask about Orrin or Orson. She said she thought they were with Jacqueline's mother, Maria Martinez. You just assumed that Orrin and Orson were with Miss Martinez? Smith asked. Yes, Wanda said. Wanda West said she thinks she last saw Orrin and Orson in February of 2020. She said due to COVID, Trezell would drive by, the older boys would get out of the van and say hi, and they would tell her Orrin and Orson were in the van. While at the house on September 18, 2020, Wanda West said she watched videos with the kids, walked around, and during that time, Trezell and Jacqueline traveled back to Bakersfield. Wanda West said she believed she heard Trezell and Jacqueline come home later that night or early the next morning. She said she didn't see Orrin or Orson with them. She walked into the kitchen and saw Trezell and Jacqueline. Wanda West said she went back to bed. She awoke on September 19, 2020. She got a call or text from U-Haul telling her to turn the truck back in. She said she knocked on the door to wake up Trezell and Jacqueline to tell them about the truck. The West got up and started unloading the truck. Wanda West said she went back to the door and saw them removing boxes from the truck, and they brought in those and furniture. She said the West on September 18, 2020 had driven the white van to Bakersfield, left it there, and picked up the U-Haul, driving it to Cal City. Wanda West testified she didn't see Orrin or Orson as they unloaded the truck. Wanda West said on September 19, 2020, she went to the U-Haul in Cal City and rented the truck for another day. Wanda West said she was with the 4 older boys for about an hour when she went to a credit union and a McDonald's. When she returned with the boys, she said she didn't see Orrin or Orson. Wanda West said Trezell and Jacqueline on the afternoon of September 19, 2020, left in the U-Haul to return to Bakersfield. Wanda West said they probably went to bed between 10 or 11 p.m. She said she's not sure what time the West got home. She said she was supposed to go back to Bakersfield on September 20th, 2020. She got up at 7 a.m. Wanda West said she watched TV with the 4 older boys. She said Trezell and Jacqueline were probably putting things away. The truck had to be returned that morning. Wanda West said she did not see Orrin or Orson that morning. The U-Haul was returned in California City. Trezell drove the vehicle, and Wanda West went with him. They drove back in her rental car to the house in Cal City. She had lunch with the 4 older boys. Didn't see Orrin or Orson. Wanda West said she went back home that afternoon after 4 p.m. When she got back to Bakersfield, it was dark. Trezell went with her. Jacqueline and the 4 older boys remained at the Cal City house. Wanda West said she went to Casa Loma Apartments so Trezell could pick up the white van. She said she dropped him off, turned around, and saw him driving right behind her. They went in different directions, leaving the apartment complex. Wanda West said she doesn't recall speaking with Trezell on December 5, 2020, about visiting her house. Smith showed Wanda West a document with a message in which she wrote on December 4, 2020, asking Trezell what time he was coming tomorrow. She got a response saying, "in the morning," according to the document. Wanda West said she got robes for the West. Her son responded saying he and Jacqueline loved the robes. On December 16, 2020, Wanda West sent a message to the West. It says she would like a family picture of everyone by the fireplace wearing their robes. She said she never got that picture. Wanda West has become emotional, saying she never got the photo because of what happened days later. She had wanted the photo as a Christmas present. Wanda West can be seen crying through the Zoom cameras, but said she's ready to proceed. Wanda West said there was a plan before Christmas for her to keep the 4 older boys from December 19th to December 23rd or 24th, 2020. On December 19th, Wanda West said the 4 boys were dropped off. Orrin and Orson weren't with them, and she thought they were with Maria Martinez, but Wanda West added they may have been in the back of the van. She didn't see them. Wanda West said she went to a credit union with Trezell and Jacqueline on September 19th, 2020. They went there to get the West some gas money. She said she didn't see Orrin or Orson in the back of the van, but Jacqueline West told her they were in the back asleep. Wanda West said the seats are high in the van, so you can't see the back seat of the van where the kids sit. Wanda West said she didn't see or hear Orrin or Orson in the van when they went to the credit union. She said music was playing in the van. Wanda West said when she left the van, she didn't make any attempt to say goodbye to Orrin or Orson because her son and daughter-in-law told her they were sleeping. "No, I didn't," she said when Smith asked if she made an attempt to see them. On December 22nd, 2020, police arrived at Wanda West's home and told her Orrin and Orson had been reported missing. An officer interviewed the 4 other boys at her home, she said. The other 4 children were removed from her home. She was allowed to visit them once a month. The last time she visited them was last month. Smith ended his questioning, and court will be in recess for 15 minutes. The trial has resumed, and Timothy Hennessy, lead attorney for Trezell West, has begun cross-examination of Wanda West. Wanda West has begun crying after being asked if the West 4 other boys were startled when police arrived at her home the day after Orrin and Orson were reported missing. "Of course they were," she said. Wanda West confirmed she is the woman who can be heard crying in the background as the children are interviewed. Wanda West said she heard Orrin and Orson had been taken by somebody. She said she can't recall if she was told it was a murder investigation the morning police arrived. Wanda West agreed it's shocking to her because her son and Jacqueline are being talked about as being monstrous people. She said they fell in love with the boys and never wanted them to be hurt, They cared for them, as far as she saw. Wanda West testified she cooperated with authorities. She said she wanted to know the truth. Hennessy is going over Wanda West's actions on December 19, 2020. It's really hard to, Wanda West said when asked if it's hard to remember things from that long ago. Wanda West again said the last time she saw Orrin and Orson was in February 2020. Hennessy asked if she told the FBI she saw them in April or May 2020. She said that's not correct. Wanda West said COVID was a big deal for her family. They knew people who died. They stayed away from other people. Hennessy asked about Trezell doing drive-bys at her house. Wanda West said there were no drive-bys and didn't involve a gun, prompting an outburst of laughter from the jury and audience. Hennessy clarified that he meant driving by for the children to say hi to her. Hennessy asked about a plan for her and her husband Philip to pick out a room for visits. Hennessy asked if the policy of Trezell and Jacqueline West was to not give photos of the kids once adoption began. She said they had asked her not to take photos of the foster children because they knew she would post them on social media. She said it was the West policy not to send photos of the children. Hennessy is asking about her visit to Cal City in September 2020 when the West moved. Wanda West said she heard the couple come home in the night of September. Wanda West said she heard the couple come home the night of September 18, 2020, then woke them up the next morning because she got a message. The U-Haul was due. The West rented the truck again for another day. I did not see Orrin or Orson, she said. Confirmed that didn't seem out of the ordinary because she believed they were at Jacqueline's mother's house. Wanda West testified it was her understanding Orrin and Orson would stay with the West when the other children spent December 19th through the 23rd, 2020 at her house. Wanda West said one of the reasons the 4 other children would stay with her, but not Orrin and Orson, was because the latter 2 had learning disabilities and cried a lot, and she couldn't give them the time they needed while watching the other 4. Wanda West, under questioning by Hennessy, said she had forgotten they needed to go to the credit union on December 19th until Trezell reminded her. Wanda West said she tried to get custody of the other children. Yes, because they're my relatives. They're my kids, she said. She said her son put up a reward for info about Orrin and Orson, and she thinks another relative hired a private investigator. Wanda West confirmed one of the West biological children told her he had talked with a caseworker and another person about the case. Wanda West said she was not threatened by law enforcement. YouTubers threatened her, she said. Hennessy ended his questioning. Wanda West has been excused. California City Police Officer Brian Hansen has been recalled to the stand. He has identified an aerial view of the West Cal City home and surrounding area. Hansen has been asked about the officers responding to the home of a Ramon Hernandez. Hansen said he recalls going to that home. He said he did not see surveillance footage from that home. Hansen testified he went to a Dollar General in California City. After reviewing a report, he said he went there on December 30th, 2020 to get video from December 19th and saw Trezell West enter the store. He was by himself, Hansen said. Smith ended his questioning. Alexia Torres-Stallings, lead counsel for Jacqueline, asked why Hansen didn't seize the footage. He said he believes it was their intention to seize it, but they never got around to it. He didn't write a report. Body cam wasn't on. Torres-Stallings asked if he spoke with Wanda and Philip West when arriving at their home on December 22nd, 2020. He said yes, but said he didn't tell them the boys were malnourished or that Trezell and Jacqueline had murdered Orrin and Orson. Hansen testified he wrote a report about that day. He said he believes he had a camera on when he spoke with the West. He said he has not reviewed the video. Torres-Stallings ended her questioning, and Victor Nasser, an attorney for Trezell, is questioning Hansen. Hansen said he doesn't believe he told anyone to retrieve the video from Ramon Hernandez's house. He said he believes the lieutenant knew about the video. Hansen has been excused. Court is in recess until 1:30 p.m. Sunya Barton has taken the stand. She works for CPS. She interviewed the West's eldest child when he said he saw Orrin West die. She was the lead forensic interviewer and is now a supervisor in the department. Her bachelor's is in psychology and her master's is in social work. A forensic interview is an interview with a child regarding an incident. She has received training in how to conduct these interviews. Interviews take place at the Jess Diamond Child Assessment Center at the Jameson Center. Barton says children are asked open-ended questions. They're asked if they know the difference between a truth and a lie. If it is determined the child is not emotionally or mentally capable to proceed, it doesn't mean the story they're telling isn't true. They'll proceed with the interview. The social worker will have been given some information from law enforcement about what the case is about. Barton says they don't put words in a child's mouth. Sometimes we walk out of there and we don't have an answer, she said. The purpose of the interview is to get the child to tell their story how they remember it, Barton said. She tries not to ask questions that have yes or no answers. Barton said she remembers an interview she conducted with one of the West adopted children after Orrin and Orson were reported missing. A sidebar has been requested by defense attorney Timothy Hennessy. The judge and attorneys are back. Smith is going to play a video of the interview Barton had with the child. The video has begun. It occurred at about 11:30 a.m. on December 22, 2020. The child enters the frame and sits on a chair, and Barton sits on the couch and starts talking with him. The boy was 8 at the time. He promises to tell the truth. The boy said he goes to school at his house, and his parents teach him. He said he likes it, likes getting stickers. The boys asked about living in Bakersfield and who was in the apartment with him. He couldn't remember at first, but then said he remembers it was him and his brothers, including Orrin and Orson, and his parents. The boy says Orrin went to his grandmother's house and Orson left. The boy says he hasn't seen Orrin and Orson since they moved, but they're going to come back. He says there was a space on the bunk beds for the boys, and that the West's eldest son said they would come back. The boy says he's worried about both Orrin and Orson. He says he wants them to return to play with him. The boy says the West's biological children talked about where Orrin and Orson were, but he doesn't know where they went. Barton leaves for a minute, then returns and resumes questioning. Asked who moved from Bakersfield to Cal City, the boy names his other brothers, but not Orrin and Orson. The video has ended. Smith is now going to play an interview Barton had with one of the West's biological children. The boy is 7. He says he went to his grandmother Wanda's house over the weekend for a vacation. Barton asks why he's here to talk with her. He says he doesn't know. He's just there. Where did Orrin and Orson go? Barton asked. They went to their own home because they cried a lot, the boy says. He says his parents told him that. Asked again, the boy confirms the boys never went to California City. The boy says his dad spanked Orrin and Orson, all of the children. Asked if the spankings left marks, the boy says no, but they would bleed. The boy says the metal part of a belt his dad used would make them bleed. The boy says his father spanked them to make them be quiet. Orrin and Orson also bled from spanking, he says. He says his dad would tell them to shut up. The video ends. Smith ended his questioning. Alexia Torres-Stallings, lead attorney for Jacqueline West, has begun cross-examination. Torres-Stallings is asking about investigations and how CPS conducts them, how the process works. Barton said they'll make a referral, and if it's a criminal matter, they'll work with law enforcement. Torres Stallings asked if CPS relies on law enforcement to give them the details of the investigation. Barton said yes, because they're the lead on forensic interviews. Barton agreed general neglect falls under a wide variety of circumstances. Torres Stallings said she wants to talk about the history of forensic interviews. She asked about the McMartin case, and Barton says she's not familiar with it. She also said she wasn't familiar with another case referenced by the attorney. Court is in recess for 15 minutes. Court is back in session with Sunya Barton still on the stand. She's testifying about the corridor, known for female victims and trafficking for prostitution. It goes from Kern County to Los Angeles to San Diego and Las Vegas. Torres Stallings asked if human trafficking goes to Texas. Yes, Barton said. Barton said her time frame in questioning the boys focused on August and September 2020. Barton said she was not aware law enforcement had interviewed the children hours before her first interviews. She did not view any videos taken of those interviews. Torres Stallings asked if it's standard for her to tell children she doesn't know what's happening with their family. Barton says yes. It's standard to let the children know she doesn't know exactly what's happened in their family. Judge Charles R. Brimmer has called a sidebar after an objection from Smith. They're back, and Torres Stallings is referring to a transcript of the interview Barton conducted with one of the children. During the interview, Torres Stallings says the West's eldest son talked with Barton about Orrin and Orson's biological family. She directed Barton to a passage of the transcript. Barton said it's correct. The boy said he had seen the biological family before. Then she moved on to another topic. But Torres Stallings said the boy brought the biological family up again in his third interview with Barton. Smith objected on the grounds of relevance based on the sidebar they just had. The judge is looking at the transcript. Judge Brimmer said he'll allow Barton to read the portion indicated by Torres Stallings, then see what the next question is. After multiple objections to Torres Stallings' questions, the judge has called another sidebar. The judge and attorneys have returned. Barton said she didn't change the subject regarding the passage Torres Stallings had her read. She said the child had finished his statement. Torres Stallings is asking about the allegations one of the children made about spanking. Barton said she watched the video with the rest of the room. She said the child never said when the spanking occurred. Barton said children undergo a physical evaluation when they enter the Jamison Center. The West children were placed in protective custody and taken to the Jamison Center, Barton said. She said she would assume an evaluation was conducted. Barton says she has testified 5 times in her career. Torres Stallings asked her to wait until she has finished asking a question before responding. Barton said, okay. After the forensic interview, she had nothing else to do with the investigation, Barton said. She doesn't know if marks were found on the boys' bodies. That's not her part of the investigation, Barton said, when Torres Stallings asked if she followed up to see if marks had been found on the boys. Barton testified there are certain protocols to follow when conducting a forensic interview. Barton said she is not licensed as a social worker through the state and never has been. The state of California. Barton says she doesn't know if state protocols differ from the protocols required under Child Protective Services. Interview tactics differ depending on the case. Barton said this was the first missing persons forensic interview she had conducted in her 11 years with the department. Torres Stallings has moved on to the second interview Barton conducted with the West's eldest biological son. This forensic interview came up because the child, placed with a resource family, had seen news feeds regarding his parents and had questions, Barton said. The resource parent informed a social worker, who Barton assumes told law enforcement, and a follow-up interview was requested. Barton testified the resource parent was upset with what the boy had told her. The second interview occurred around December 28, 2020. Barton said she was probably aware of some other details that had come out about the case, but can't recall specifics. Barton said she can't recall knowing the West vehicle had been forensically evaluated, but said she recalls someone saying there was no evidence. Barton said she has not reviewed text messages between herself and another social worker. She said she doesn't recall the other worker reminding her about the smell in the vehicle. Tori Stallings has showed Barton a document, and Barton said it does not refresh her memory. Barton testified after her first interview with all 4 children. She believed the eldest child was not being truthful. She had that belief when she conducted the second interview with the eldest child. Tori Stallings ended her questioning. On redirect, Barton said she felt like the eldest boy was not being truthful, didn't want to get his parents in trouble. Her impression about second interview was that he was more forthcoming about what he said happened in the home. On recross, Barton said other than the interviews, she relied on info from law enforcement and the other social worker. Barton testified she was aware a dig had been completed at the Cal City home and no remains were found. Barton said yes. Tori Stallings asked her the prior question. She followed up by asking if she was aware the home had been searched and no forensic evidence had been found. That's because the children weren't in the house, Barton said, drawing chuckles from some audience members. Barton has been excused, and the trial will resume at 9 a.m. tomorrow.